The school teacher who had a history of molesting children still was allowed to teach in a school. Well, guess what? As we said, he has now been sentenced to prison for what? Molesting children, for rape. Let's put up his picture. Let me remind you of this guy, Robert Vanel, Vanel. This is a former Metro Atlanta teacher, has now been sentenced to 10 years in prison. No eligibility for parole in those 10 years. He pleaded guilty last week to charges of rape, aggravated child molestation, false imprisonment, and 2 counts of child molestation. Now, let me give you some context to this. We covered this pervert a few months ago. We were able to expose that he had a history with 2 other educational institutes. 2 other schools were aware of his checkered past and his perversion. But these other institutions decided not to rock the boat, contact law enforcement. Some parents were aware of his perversion and decided to contact the new school he was hired in. One of those schools said, well, we knew about it, but he came with such strong recommendations. I kid you not, I'm not making this up. It's in the story. He literally got a job where the hiring authority at the school said she was aware of his background and the accusations of abusing and molesting children, but decided that his letters of recommendation was so strong that it simply paled. That paled in comparison. His child molestation background was not an issue to her. Ridiculous, insane, but real. Former Metro Atlanta teacher, 10 years in prison. Robert Vanel, 64 years of age, previously employed as a teacher at the Fulton Academy of Science and Technology. They call themselves FAST for short, charter school in Roswell, Georgia, all right? And Lyndon Academy in Holly Springs. That was another institution that he taught at as well. Let's put up a picture of the principal of FAST Academy, all right? That's your principal, Stan J. Biner. All right, on September 2nd, 2021, the Roswell Police Department arrested Vanel on a number of sexual assault charges. Vanel had been initially arrested on rape and other charges for assaulting a student at FAST. He then faced additional charges linked to a second victim. According to police, Vanel was teaching at Lyndon Academy at the time of his arrest. He was going from school to school. Warrants from Fulton County claimed Vanel was having online chats with several students while at FAST. It also stated Vanel's classroom used to be in a trailer outside of the main building, and several students were seen going to the trailer during recess, lunch, and after school. The warrant also stated that this teacher kept roaches, lizards, and a hedgehog in his classroom to encourage students to spend time there when they were not in class. It also claimed Vanel gave students candy and ice cream when they visited his classroom. That was his recruitment playground, and they let him do it. Now, this is when you need a real one to be the police. Where's the charge against the principal that hired him, knowing he had allegations and credible allegations of sexual abuse? Where's the charge for child endangerment? For every administrator that was aware of this background, who still decided to sign off on the employment, why is there not a warrant nor an indictment? You have to understand the power of white privilege for this to make sense. If you are a black male, and I have friends that are black men who teach in K through 12 education, if you get a damn traffic ticket as a black male teacher, there's a problem. You have to write a summary, you have to give explanation to the school, and you still may not be able to return to the classroom. Don't get a super speeder, you got real problems. And listen, you get a DUI, you can hang it up. Even if you get help, don't drink anymore, years of sobriety, hang it up, you're done. But this guy, multiple institutions still hired him after these known allegations. The reason why it came to our attention a few months ago is because parents from one of the previous institutions decided to be proactive, and they are the ones who made noise when he kept getting hired at other schools. That's how it came to our attention. Well, he's gonna be in prison for at least 10 years. He should be there more. The victims that we know about, probably not even the tip of the iceberg. Yasmin, thoughts on this?
I just don't understand why there are all these institutions that are supposed to protect people and protect our children especially, and they're just not doing that, right? We're letting down our children at every step of the way in the society that we've built for ourselves, and it's becoming, the problems are compounding upon one another, and they're hard to separate from each other. And it's very distressing, every time I even consider having children, it's very scary. It's so scary, especially considering having children here in this country and here in Texas for that matter. I live in Texas. So it is very scary. I'm glad that this guy was finally caught, but it is a bigger issue about all these people who knew what was going on and still didn't do anything. And these are educators. These are people who chose this profession, not for the money. We know they didn't do it for the money. They did it because they wanted to be there, right? And all these people, their job, part of their job, a big part of their job is to protect these children, and they did not do it. And none of them will be held accountable for this.
The first obligation of a K through 12 educator is the protection of the child. Second obligation is to education curriculum. Third obligation is to social development. I was a high school teacher for years, and these are very simple tenets of teaching.